Hey everyone, I'm Shashank at AWS, and in this video we'll take a look at 7 things that you should know about AI and ML launches here at reInvent. I've broken down these launches into 7 different categories. Those are the 7 things we'll discuss, starting with machine learning for everyone. AWS launched Amazon SageMaker Studio Lab, which is a free hosted Jupyter Notebook service in the cloud that gives you access to CPU and GPU resources for free. You heard that right. Free resources for machine learning development, whether you're a student or someone just dipping their toes into machine learning and want to learn more. You get access to free instance in the cloud without the need to open an AWS account, no credit card needed. Just sign up and you get access to your own personal development environment in the cloud. The CPU sessions will last up to 12 hours, which is plenty of time to do a lot of data science, data pre-processing, and analysis. And the GPU instance option will give you up to 4 hours of compute time. Fantastic for smaller data set training and fine-tuning your models. Up next, we have Amazon SageMaker Training Compiler in our second category, or the second thing you should know under machine learning training. Amazon SageMaker Training Compiler is an optimizing compiler that will take a look at your machine learning model's computational graph, find inefficiencies, and try to optimize it to give you better performance. How does it do it? There are a number of optimization opportunities in your graph, such as operator fusion, as well as memory layout planning and better tensor layout, and so on. These are the optimizations that the training compiler will do on behalf of you. All you have to do is bring in your machine learning model, couple of lines of code changes in your SageMaker estimator function, and boom, you have performance improvements. At launch, Hugging Face models are supported, and more models to be supported in the future. In the documentation page, you'll see a range of supported models. If you're training any of these models, head over right now, make that one line of code change, and see performance improvements. Next, we'll talk about the third thing you should know, which is machine learning inference. There are 2 new services under the machine learning inference category, starting with Amazon SageMaker Serverless Inference. If you're used to using serverless services such as Lambdas or Fargate, then you can expect all the benefits of a serverless service with Amazon SageMaker Serverless Inference. This is a brand new service which is currently in preview. If you're deploying a model with SageMaker real-time endpoints, then it is easy to switch to a serverless endpoint where you don't have to manage your resources. All you have to do is specify in the endpoint configuration that you want to deploy to a serverless endpoint and memory configuration, and your model will be hosted with a serverless endpoint, where you're only charged for the invocations and the duration of execution, and you're not paying for an instance that's constantly running. If you have sporadic traffic, if you have unpredictable traffic, this becomes a no-brainer option to start with. If at any time in the future you want to switch over to a real-time endpoint because you have steady stream of requests, you can do that. So this option will work for a lot of you who want to deploy a model and you don't know what your traffic is going to look like at the time of deployment. If you have a latency sensitive applications, this may not be the best option for you, because when the endpoint is idle, when you don't have traffic coming in, then there's a cold start period. So a real-time endpoint is still a good option for you, but for a variety of other use cases, this might be the very first thing you try. It is currently in preview. Feel free to check it out if you are doing model deployments. The next service under ML inference is Amazon SageMaker Inference Recommender. If you're deploying models, you probably gone through the whole list of ML instances available from various CPU instances, various GPU type instances, and compared performance across G4 instances and G5 instances and C5 instances and all the different sizes to figure out which is the right instance type that meets your latency and throughput requirements. Now, this is a computationally expensive but also time consuming task, having to go through all these different options and benchmark them With SageMaker Inference Recommender, you get a service that will automatically do this benchmarking for you and provide you with a table of results along with cost consideration, your latency, throughput of each of these instance types. As long as you provide your model and a sample payload, you can also optionally provide the type of problem your model is solving, whether it's classification or regression, and what domain it is part of, whether it's computer vision, natural language processing, or others. You provide this information, and SageMaker Inference Recommender will give you a table of information from which you can choose the right instance type for deployment for your application. It's integrated with SageMaker Studio, which means you also get a visual overview of all the recommended instance types, and you can choose the right one from there and deploy your model so that you don't have to try all these instance options by yourself. It's just a couple of lines of code, and then you get the results automatically calculated for you. Next, we move on to the fourth thing you should know, which is ML and data science workflows. A lot of data scientists and data engineers use SageMaker to train and deploy models, but also rely on Amazon EMR to run Spark jobs. Earlier this year, there was a feature available which allowed SageMaker Studio users to be able to take a look at EMR clusters and submit jobs. With this new launch, you're now able to not just view these EMR clusters, but also create them right within Studio, and also submit training jobs and debug these training jobs without ever leaving the Studio interface. This is a fantastic capability for data scientists who also have to deal with data pre-processing jobs on Spark cluster. Previously, you would have to work with IT or ops people to manage the EMR cluster, or you would have to do it yourself. This feature unifies the way to create clusters and manage clusters, and also tear down clusters right within the Studio user interface. The next thing, the fifth thing you should know about launches at reInvent is ML data labeling. Now, a couple of years ago, SageMaker Ground Truth was launched to give you access to tools and ability to bring in your own labeling workforce to get your data sets labeled. So the tools available to you included data labeling tools right within the SageMaker console to get your data set labeled, but you had to bring in your own private labeling workforce. You have to manage your labeling workforce and give them the tools to get them labeled. With SageMaker Ground Truth Plus, this new capability gives you a turnkey solution to get your data labeled. So if you are the data labeling program lead at your organization, or if you're just a data scientist who wants to get your data set labeled, you get a turnkey solution with Ground Truth Plus. You simply go to the AWS Ground Truth Plus console and a request to be put in contact with an AWS representative who will discuss your project goals. And after that, AWS Ground Truth Plus team will manage all the labeling. They use machine assisted labeling to make sure that the labels are accurate, and also machine assisted labeling is used to make sure that the output of the human labeling is validated. You have complete transparency at any given time. You can log in and take a look at progress, also provide your inputs. As far as a user is concerned yourself, you start the project, submit your data set, and you get the labeled outputs with transparency in between, where you have an opportunity to track progress. So that is SageMaker Ground Truth Plus. Moving on to the sixth thing you should know is hardware. This is one of my favorite topics because I like new machine learning hardware, including CPUs and GPUs, but also our launches with Trainium, which we'll talk about. So the first service here is the launch of Amazon EC2 G5G powered instances. So we launched G5 instances a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, which basically is an instance with the latest NVIDIA A10G GPUs based on the Ampere architecture. This G5G is a new instance in the similar category of GPU instance types, where it pairs an NVIDIA GPU, in this case the NVIDIA T4G GPU, with a Graviton 2 processor. This is the first time we have a GPU with a Graviton processor as an instance in the cloud, and this is a fantastic option not just for machine learning inference, but also a variety of other applications in gaming and graphics. The second hardware announcement I want to talk about is EC2 TRN1 instance. Now this is exciting. This was announced last year, and this is a custom AWS developed processor for training machine learning models, which is currently in preview. This joins the short list of machine learning accelerators, starting with GPUs and Intel's Habana Gaudi processor, which was made available earlier this year, and now Trainium with TRN1. A few years ago, the only option to train your models on an accelerator was the GPUs. Now we have 3 different options. This is currently in preview. I haven't had a chance to test it, but it's one of the most exciting launches here for me personally at reInvent. So the 7th thing you should know is Amazon SageMaker Canvas, and this is under the category of ML for non-developer. If you're a business analyst or anyone who deals with data, who understands the data domain, who understands data distributions, but don't necessarily have the skills to code up Python scripts in a Studio Lab notebook or a Jupyter notebook, then this is the service for you. It provides a visual point and click interface for you to go through the process of data importing from a variety of different sources, either from S3 or other databases. There are point and click interfaces to select your target variable, clean up data, perform inner joins, outer joins from multiple sources, and finally train over 250 models automatically at a push of a button, and then do analysis of the results, all of this visually. If you understand your data domain very well but don't want to code up algorithms in pandas and scikit-learn and other machine learning packages, then this is the right tool for you. The output is a model which you can use to generate new predictions. So those are all the launches, folks. So on the screen, I will list out all the different launches, covering launches for everyone with Studio Lab, launches for training with Training Compiler, launches for Inference with Serverless Inference and Inference Recommender, also ML data science workflows with EMR integration right from Studio, ML data processing and labeling with Ground Truth Plus, hardware, 2 new hardware launches, TRN1 with AWS Silicon and also EC2 G5G instance, and finally ML for non-developers, which is SageMaker Canvas. So there you have it, folks. Those are all the launches. You're all caught up now, and stay tuned and follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn in the description, and also follow me on this channel because I'm going to be busy creating deep dive videos for each of these services, so you get the option to watch it first. Until the next one, see you.